Mon Kettle Kitchen. So tonight I'm making a comfort food classic. I am making a pot roast in my newer 8-quart pressure cooker. So let's get going. Alright, so first thing is first, we are going to be making a spice blend to put on the beef. So I purchased a nice 3-pound chuck roast. It's nice and marbled. It does have a little more fat than a like a rump roast and something like that, but this will give it excellent flavor. So that is what I purchased. I'm going to make a spice rub because we want to spice this whole thing up. So I have 1 teaspoon and then a half teaspoon of ground mustard. I love the tang that it gives. We're going to do a heaping teaspoon of garlic powder. And of course, garlic powder can't go anywhere without its best friend, onion powder. Do a heaping teaspoon of that. Wasn't very heaping. There we go. I'm just going to do about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of chopped rosemary. Going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper and 1 teaspoon of salt. So you just want to give that a nice little mix. Right. So I'm going to sprinkle half of the mixture. This is a clean, just plastic cutting board. And that's so I can get this whole side coated in seasoning. So I'm going to sprinkle this all over. Give it a rub and a good press. The trick for beef as well, even if you're cooking steak, you want it to come up practically to room temperature. That way you can get a nice sear on it. I'm going to let it chill there for a minute. Let me give my hands a rinse because we need some olive oil. Alright, so I have the olive oil set aside. Get these dishes moved. We're going to put this aside so we can get the pressure cooker set up. And on my large one, I actually have a sear option. If you do not have a sear option, just use your brown and saute option. So let's get that guy rolling. This is the new Crock-Pot 8-quart, the XL, new to me. So they do have a brown and sear function, and they have a saute. So I'm just going to do the sear. It's high and start. So I'm going to let this get hot before I add the oil in, and then we will sear each side of the roast. Alright, now that the pot is nice and hot, I'm going to add a couple turns of extra virgin olive oil. And let's get this in. So you're going to let it brown just for a couple minutes on each side. And that locks in all of that juice, all of that flavor. So I'm going to continue to let this sear. So now we're going to flip it. Oh, look at the color. Ooh, fogging it. See how it's nice and brown right here? That just gets all those flavors nice and locked in. So we're going to brown this side for about a minute, and then I will do the edges as well for about 45 seconds to a minute on each side. Searing, I just want to show you the onions. I chopped up 3 small onions because that's what I had. If you have 2 large onions, that's what you're going to want to use. I just cut them in half, and then I just cut them lengthwise so you have all this nice layers. You want something that's going to be thick like this because you're going to make a bed at the bottom of the pot. So I have 3 onions chopped, and I have 2 cloves of garlic ready as well to be thrown into the pot. Browning the sides like this, you just want to give it a little bit of assistance. Just use your tongs just to hold it. And you're just going to rotate it so you get the ends as well. You just want to make sure all of those juices are nice and locked in. I have just the end of this roast left. You don't want to squeeze it too hard when it's browning because you don't want the juice to come out. All right, so now we're going to pull it out and just put it on a dish just to rest. All right, so we're gonna add in 2 tablespoons of butter, just so we can deglaze the pan a little bit. Let me bring you in closer. So use a wooden spatula, because you want to deglaze the bottom of the pan. So luckily this is a non-stick, but you still scrape it down. You don't want any of that stuff giving you an error or a burn message in an Instant Pot. If you have stainless steel, just make sure that you are scraping the bottom to make sure nothing is stuck. So now I'm going to dump in the onions, and with my clean hand, I'm just going to add in just a pinch of salt. That'll help break down the onions, and just break them all up so you have them in these long pieces. And let me bring you overhead. So as you can see, it does pick up some of the spices, so all of that will flavor the onions as well, and it also helps make sure that the pot doesn't get a burn in it, because all that spice is flavoring those onions and not sticking. So we're just going to cook this for about a minute, minute and a half, just so we can start breaking some of these onions down. All right, so at this point, they're starting to break down. Grab my garlic right now. So I always grate my garlic in. I just use a microplane so you don't chop into those big bite-sized pieces, which I'm kind of okay with because I'm obsessed with garlic. Or if you have a truffle shaver, you can just thinly slice this garlic and you can throw it in that way as well, and that will work out perfect. Let me just see how all that garlic sits up there, and make sure it goes in the pot. And you always want to wait to add the garlic because you don't want to burn it. Most people say they don't like garlic, and I tell them they're wrong, because they're just eating garlic that is burnt, so it becomes bitter. So I'm going to add in a couple teaspoons of, I just have steak sauce. This gives a nice umami flavor. And I'm also going to add in just a teaspoon of grainy Dijon. That gives it a great depth of flavor. Holy steam! Alright. Now I'm going to shut the saute section off, and you can see that you now have a nice bed of onions. I'm going to slide the pot roast back in. And if you want, at this stage, it'd be great if you had one of those trivets that have the handles on it. My trivets don't, so I just throw it in like this. Now we're going to add in the rest of the ingredients. You want to just make sure that you scrape off all the seasoning that came on the plate. If you have extra juices or anything like that, you don't want to waste it. So I'm going to add in 1 3/4 cup of just beef stock, or your homemade stock if you have any of that. And the reason I do 1 3/4 is because I want to thicken this up after. So I have a 1/4 cup of beef stock set aside, which I'll do a cornstarch slurry. To also add a really good depth of flavor, I'm using a Pinot Noir. I'm not a huge wine drinker. I do make jellies with it though all the time, and I love the brand Barefoot. I never use cooking wine, I just always use drinking wine to make anything. So now I have a cup of wine in there. I bought a package of just portabella mushrooms. I'm going to just break them in half and throw them on top of the beef. And this will be great when you make the gravy afterwards. All right, let me give my hands a rinse. I'm also going to put a sprig of fresh thyme in there. I'm not a huge dry thyme person. I feel like fresh herbs give a better flavor. So I have 2 sprigs in there. Now I'm going to show you what to do for the carrots and the potatoes. Right, so I have about, excuse me, a pound of potatoes that I just cubed. You want them in bigger cube sizes, like the baby potatoes. And all I have right now is aluminum sheets. So this will help avoid them to getting mushy. Another one. So if you have just aluminum foil, just make sure you have it the right size for the packets. And I'm going to do the same thing with half a pound of baby carrots. Right, so I'm just going to put these little pouches. Actually, let me grab my trivet. So I do this just so the liquid doesn't hit the potatoes. And we're going to lock it up. We're going to make sure that it is in the sealed position, and let me bring it up front. So the beauty about this machine, I actually have a manual pressure, just like the Instant Pot does. So I'm going to do a manual pressure on high, and we're going to do it for 1 hour. And we're going to start. Happy pressuring. All right, so now we are going to let this count up to 15 for natural pressure release. Right, so the 15 minutes is up. Just going to release the rest of the pressure. There shouldn't be much built up. This will probably take about 45 seconds. Now that this is all done, we're just going to open it up. Open away. We're going to take out the packets. If you can hear my dogs, it's because she's having a play date. We're going to take out the rack. And we're going to scrape the mushrooms off. And we're going to take out the roast. Here's to open these little tongs, we'll do it. Ah, losing it. All right, so we're gonna take out the thyme sprigs. Okay. So in order to make the cornstarch slurry, like I said, I have a 1/4 cup of beef stock. We're going to do 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. Just give it a whisk. Make sure it's nice and dissolved. I have a clump. So now we're going to put this on to saute. I'm going to dump this in. We're just going to stir it until thickened. Alright, so this is thickened nicely, so it sticks on the back of a spoon. So that's when you know it's done. So now we're going to shut this off, and we're going to serve up the pot roast. Alright, so I've put it in a platter, in a nice dish. I'm going to top it with some gravy before we serve. And there is your comfort food pot roast, 1 pan dinner. Have a good night, guys.